WSD was a game changer for PoE 2. It's... I mean, I think it's fine. Is cross-platform competition compromised by different controls? Yeah, you know what? That's I think what I wanted to say initially. Not about Street Fighter Modern, but like the fact that you can use different controllers for different games. Cross-platform fighting games, it's just you being comfortable with a controller. I don't think it inherently changes anything. You're right. I guess that's the best way to put it, to be honest. If you use WASD, you could say that's using an Xbox controller. If you use, you know, the mouse with the right-clicking, you could say that's maybe like a PlayStation controller. Hitbox got banned. Apex got destroyed because of that. Oh, what, because they use different controllers? I mean, controllers just kind of suck anyways. Unless it's like fighting games. Controller gets aim assist. Yeah, but we've played with controllers for so long. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do in that case? I think it's a lot different from WASD to right-click, though. Aim assist sounds a bit worse to deal with than, like, you know, manually aiming, obviously. If people can enjoy the game with WSD, I'm not going to gatekeep. Games do need more modern solutions, but League just has a lot of issues. League does. League has a lot of archaic things that need to be updated. There were certain moves that came out faster with hitbox inputs. Well, that's... I don't know. You still are using your keyboard. It's still the same damn thing. No way old champs can compete with modern ones. I disagree. It really just, you know what? League of Legends at its core, I agree and disagree. League at its core, so we can look back to old champions. We can see characters that are useless and terrible and they have no mechanics. You know, all they have is numbers. That's typically what old champs have if they don't have, you know, fancy schmancy kits. But League of Legends, first and foremost, is comp diff. The way this game was made is to build a comp that is relevant in your strategy or in defeating the enemy's strategy, right? So not every champion has to be relevant against every champion because that's just not how that works. You know, you pick characters based on what your comp is picking and what the enemy has to, you know, what they're offering you, right? So we can say, well, Twisted Fate's an old champion, TF's useless. Well, TF can lock down every new champ. For free. He can lock down any character he wants in this game. Maybe not Mel, but then you don't pick TF against Mel. Maybe you play a different character. Right? So, like, the interesting thing about League is that you have all of these options at your disposal. If they pick Nefiri, you pick something that beats Nefiri. If they pick this, well, hopefully you get that, so on and so forth, and you can kind of, you know, mix and match jungle and mid pick, top and mid, whatever. So there is an issue where new champs usually have more going on in their kit. And I think as, you know, games progress and as people have an interest in things, you need to have that be as crazy as it is, right? No one's going to have interest in a new Garen. The last time we had a Garen was Set, and a lot of that came from, like, him being some Catboy. You know what I mean? Catboy One Punch Man. So, well, everyone wants to be one player, but that's just not how the game works. That's not what League is. That's what solo queue tries to be, but that's not League. No, not every game needs to be esports, but that is inherently what League of Legends is. League of Legends is inherently a 5 versus 5 competitive, you know, fucking... what would you call it? A tactical, it's a MOBA. You got to think about strategies and come up with ways to defeat the enemy team based on picks and different ideas as to go about games. It's a 5v... Well, solo queue is a completely different experience as to what League is supposed to be. Solo queue is not League of Legends. Solo queue is not League of Legends. 5v5 on comms, picking and drafting teams is League of Legends at its core. So, you know, it's just unfortunate that solo queue is the way it is. You know what would make it more 5v5 is comms. Comms. That's it. You want to let people kind of feel what it's like to be in a setting that has, you know, choices that can be made in a heartbeat and strategies that can be talked about, you know, throughout the game instead of yapping through text. Comms. Comms will make these games much better. Because you could strategize and you could sit there and you could talk to your team like, hey, let's draft this, let's do that. It's not that you can't do that with chat, it's that it's more convenient with voices. It's more on the fly, instantaneous. You know, say like, hey, I'm going to gank in about 5 minutes, just wait. And then you can relay that, saying like, okay, I'm going to freeze the wave or let it slow push and all this stuff. Okay, come now, blah, blah, blah. Right? You have more competitive options and you can strategize with your voice so much better than you could with typing. So if you want to make solo queue better and feel more like League of Legends, you need ways for people to make that happen. Voice comms. Any ways to interact, right? And again, it's not that people need to be doing it, but it's cool to have that as an option. Dota has voice. That's great. Voice chat improves every game. Only shooters become unbearably toxic. Yeah, I mean, you know what? It just depends on the audience. And I think the problem with League is that the audience is really, really toxic. And I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't. I was a piece of shit. I was a delusional, you know, unaware, just like, clown. I was a clown. No self-awareness, nothing. And, you know, if the League scene had more common sense, I think Riot would probably want voice comms in this game immediately. I think easily they'd want that. But it's, you know, again, if they implement it, how good is it going to be? The game's a shooter, MOBA, so comms, there might be more needed. Comms in any scenario where you're interacting with people on your team is needed. If this is a collaborative effort and all we do is play the game but not speak, that is less value than, you know, using our voice for things. There is always more value in communicating information, right? So it's just, can you trust these people to talk like human beings? You know? What the hell, there, brother? You know what? I wish... Okay, press 1 for voice comms, press 2 for nothing. I don't think there's any harm in trying. I think there's no harm in trying. I say give it to the people, and if the people destroy it, it is what it is. At that point, maybe try something different. Maybe work on ways to, you know, tweak it. It's not that you're forced into it, it's that it's an option for players. I don't believe in forcing anything onto anyone. I think if you truly want something and, you know, it's there, take it or leave it, right? You give players and people options. It's not like you're forcing them to do anything they don't want to do. 1! He really wants it. This guy's going crazy. That's all he wants. Do it anyways, the game is fucked. It's so interesting to me that, like, who wants to work with League? Well, you know what? Let me ask you this. What is the one thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word League of Legends? Or that's not a word, but, you know, League, we'll say, whatever. When you hear League of Legends, what comes to mind? Pain. Shit game, pain. Neckbeards. Bad toxicity, disappointment. Griefers, kids. Like, how do you repair that? Like, you utter the word, you know, League of Legends anywhere, and it's like Voldemort. Who the hell wants to deal with that shit? You don't, the game's cooked. Yeah. So, accessibility, WASD, voice comms, all that stuff. You know, let people communicate and play the game. You know, make it more welcoming to players. Again, give people, like, ways to, if you don't want to type, pre-made messages that you can just click and say, that's what I want to send. So many things. So many quality of life changes that I think would make players, in the end, happier. So, like, Smite? Well, if that's what Smite has, then yes, like Smite. It's crazy to think that all these other MOBAs that not many people play have so many better features than League. League really is an archaic experience, but the game is still very fun to play. There's not many quality of life changes in League that are at all there. There's nothing. You know? Like, what you get is skins and Gambit skins and Arcane and stuff like that, but there's no... You know, one feature they added that was harmless, completely harmless, and I loved it, is when you die, you can press a button on screen to look at your teammates play the game. Awesome. Awesome. More of that stuff. Right? Super simple. Really doesn't take any work. At least, I think. I mean, I don't work there, so... Why would you want that? So you can see what's going on around the map without having to, you know, manually move around, right? Very simplistic accessibility. It's like, I died. Well, do I follow them with my camera? Or do I click one button and I can watch them play? You know, is that being lazy? I wouldn't say so. It's just accessibility. Ace Zila, thank you for the Prime. You know, you have the function keys. I don't. I swapped them out for leveling up. It's a harmless feature that does literally nothing but give the player an ease of access to a mechanic. That's not a crime. It doesn't impact the game in any way, but allows players to experience it a little bit easier. You know? Voice comms, actually, I think, would impact the game in a very big way, but I'd say there's only benefits, you know? Let people converse, let people talk about strategies, let people, you know, say, hey, I'm gonna gank you in 2 minutes, don't go fighting. And then they're like, okay, you know, I know you're gonna be there in 2 minutes, we'll stay and we'll farm. Okay, you just saved your bot lane from dying 10 times. So... Well, don't go fighting with the bot lane, yeah. Don't go off and fight the enemy bot lane. I suspect League will start actually dying with the coming of the MMO. A lot of people will most likely move there. You say that, but how many people care about Runeterra and the world of League of Legends? Well, I say League of Legends. I mean, that's Runeterra. So Runeterra, how many people care about that? I think a lot of people were put onto it because of Arcane. I would say that. Arcane probably saved it, to be honest. Because if you really look at how many people cared about lore, I mean, The weird games that weren't really marketed were lore, but if you cared about the lore, you'd probably, you know, check them out, and they went nowhere. Necrit stuff is awesome. Necrit is a gateway to enjoying Runeterra, 100%. But there isn't much out there in terms of, like, hooking people onto the lore. A lot of this is still kind of like an esports game. It's competitive. You've got player versus player. You've got a ladder that you can kind of compete in. And that, to them, is like, you know, the #1 thing. Auto, man. Moon, hello. Not a lot of people cared about Runeterra until Riot Forge and thing. Yeah, it's... I mean, it's just presenting... I should have moved up. I cared more. I cared before Arcane. I haven't seen Andor Season 2. I like Season 1. Andor was like some of the best Star Wars, for sure. It wasn't really Disneyfied. It didn't treat the viewers like babies. It was a very realistic view into the world of, like, an oppressed people by the Empire. A galaxy of oppression. Not through the lens of anyone grand, but through average Joes trying to make a difference. You know? Although I guess that is kind of like, you know, Luke and his gang anyways. They're just kind of like average Joes, except one of them's like a Jedi. Valorant is dead. Why is he inting? Valorant is dead. 33333.
An enemy has been slain.
No, Andor is amazing. Star Wars is... A lot of the shows kind of treat you like a dummy. But Andor is a very serious thing. But yeah, I don't know. For the sake of League, again, if you want people to be interested in the MMO, you have to sell them on the world itself. Actually, you know what? You know what might have gotten people into Runeterra? The one thing we all forget about, because, I mean, even Riot did, is LOR. Legends of Runeterra, I think, was the gateway into what the world truly looked like. You know? Visually. I should say visually. Because LOR has all of the updated visuals of the universe. And they try to keep it semi-current, I think, with what's going on. No, the lore community on Twitter is massive. I'm saying for the average League of Legends enjoyer, if I sat down and talked to every person in my games, do you think they'd all be on board with playing the MMO? I don't think many ranked players or like League gameplay enjoyers are that interested. Ask them in chat. I should. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Since, again, you know what? Since Arcane, this game's only gotten bigger. Since Arcane. In terms of its interest in, you know, the story and the characters and whatnot. Because, like, you see them in a different light. You get hyped when you see characters who, you can witness their journey through, like, a show or a movie. You know, you can hear the music of certain champs, right? GANGPLANK or Twisted Fate, any of these people. Well, maybe not TF. TF doesn't have a theme, but whenever you're presented with the visuals of a world that was typically only viewable through text or images or a game, it's a different beast because you truly see it come to life. You know? Although games can do that for you. I think Warhammer Total War did a great job at conveying what the Warhammer fantasy world was. Same thing with Vermintide and whatnot. But, you know, all the short animations on YouTube for League of Legends, Arcane, any other projects they want to do, where the universe is on display, you know, first and foremost, people will be so much more interested. What am I doing? That was so bad.
Your turret has been destroyed.
No, exactly. It goes like both ways, I suppose. It's like you appreciate more in a universe when you're given different ways to view it. You know? Like, I love the Warhammer miniatures. This is a Warhammer miniature, we'll say. I love this. But then I get the book, and I read about it, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's so much cooler. That guy's so cool. And then they show me an animation, and then I'm like, oh my god, the book is so much better. Oh my god, the miniature is so much better. Right? So for League of Legends, you can kind of, you know, be presented with novels and be presented with all these different things that kind of give you a greater understanding and a greater interest in, you know, what the characters are about, what the universe is. But the number one thing to me is accessibility. If you ever want people to be interested in something, specifically about a fucking universe made up, accessibility. What the hell? Like, you will have an audience captivated, I think, in today's times, with gaming, with an animated show on Netflix, than you would a book. Right? A lot of the classic IPs, The Witcher, Lord of the Rings, you know, Harry Potter, all these things stemmed from books. How many people in today's times would want to sit down and read a book versus watch an animation? Some people got into Warhammer because of Astartes. Some people got into Warhammer because of, you know, fucking the Space Marine, right? No, reading is great, but, like, not everyone's going to want to do that. That's tediousness. You know, if you want to show today's generation, you know, what something is about, I think it really stems to, like, how you present that. Right? So, you know, it boils back down to League's lore is most likely popular only because of Arcane and because of other things that people can access without having to work for it. If you want to work for that lore, amazing. You know, go read, go look at wikis, yada, yada, yada. So, Necrit's amazing at what he does. I really appreciate what Necrit does, because without that guy, a lot of people wouldn't be interested in lore. Because there would be no other way to consume it so easily. Right? Necrit literally reads you the fucking lore. Right? Who wants to sit down and manually think about things anymore? I mean, I do. I like that sometimes, but sometimes you also want to sit down and just listen and watch something be made. Right? It's like, oh, this book, forget it. But you know what I mean, right? Like, people summarize books and all that jazz, and they, even audiobooks. Bro, audiobooks are amazing. Vatividia, same deal, amazing. And it's not that finding out that stuff yourself sucks, but it isn't everyone's cup of tea. I think the vast majority of people who like universes don't really want to sit down. Well, that's not true. I think a lot of people initially, as to why they loved it, is because they sat down and they read through it and they're like, this is amazing. But to get new people on board and interested, maybe not the best way. People told me Necrit was biased in so many times. Well, for the sake of him reading lore and discussing things, I mean, he knows the most. It's not that everything he says is 100% true in terms of theories and whatnot, but, like, in presenting information that was from Riot Games, I mean, that's just a fact. It's from Riot Games. No, it is scattered across a lot of different media. That's true. And, you know, if you want to find all that stuff, if you want to know the story of GANGPLANK, you got to play the Ruin King, You have to read The Burning Tides. You have to read all of his short stories. You have to read about Alawi as well. Like, it is kind of everywhere. They don't give you one thing about one character, right? The world is scattered. If you want that information, you have to go find it. There isn't your one-stop shop for, like, all things Gangplank. So what people do, you know, for the sake of making 40K YouTube videos, Warhammer Fantasy YouTube videos, it all stems from a passion of, like, I love this shit, and I want to show other people how amazing it is. You know? And we hope you are interested, and you love, you know, Runeterra, and the Old World, and Middle-earth. Right? Because we don't always have that time to read through 50 books. In-game wiki, exactly. I've been crying for an in-game wiki for, like, ages. You know, if you want to know information of Gangplank, like, you click on GP's profile, and it's like, he's 6 feet tall. He's this, he's this, he's this. Here's all of his stories, blah, 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 right? Sell us on the character. Show us the stories. You know, let us connect with these creations. Not that we want to be them, but, you know, it's cool to know, like, what we're doing. Cinema. Cinema! Jeez. Sorry, let me turn the alerts back on. They've been off for a little bit.
Your team has destroyed an inhibitor.
Jeez. It's impossible to get diamond in LAN servers. Just 1v9.
So what do you think of Cyberpunk? Joking, don't rainbows me lol.
You're lucky I'm in a good mood. I'm in a hungry mood, actually. I think I might take a little break after this to go get some food. I'm not gonna lie. I'm fucking starving. I was up a little bit earlier today, and I haven't eaten since last night. I need food. What happened with Cyberpunk? Nothing. I just, you know what? I yap. I yap about a lot of stuff. I'm sure sometimes my yappenings don't really make sense. And, you know, we go in circles. We go in circles quite a bit. But
real talk. Will you watch the Cyberpunk anime? It makes people cry because it's emotional. It's peak.
The only chance at that is when I'm eating food. If I can sit down during my, like, little break that I have daily and watch it while I'm eating, I think that would be fine, but otherwise, no.
Watch it with Ivana's smile.
If she wants to, yeah. She said, you know, I went to go talk to her after playing a bit of Cyberpunk, and she's like, oh, I told her, I'm like, hey, have you seen Cyberpunk? This game's apparently pretty popular. And she's like, yeah, I watched for 2 minutes. It's a Gooner game. I don't think she wants to watch it. Or see anything Cyberpunk. It's a Gooner game. Gooners. There's a bit of gooning. There 100% is gooning in the game. Good lord. Bro, Jody! Jody, no! Poor Jody.
If Riot ever did a live-action movie, who do you think the most notable casts would be for the champions? Who would be cast as Braum?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson with a mustache.
Yeah, Elden Ring et al. Isn't Gunning Kappa.
They would make Dwayne The Rock Johnson as Braum, and Jack Black would play the voice of, like... Actually, it'd be Chris Pratt as the Poros. Yep. Chris Pratt would be the Poros.
I love to play the game Dwarves the board game, but only when I started reading the books it all makes way more sense, is a lot more interesting.
You need those layers of information to really make an experience so memorable. You know, that's why we read about and look into games that we've completed. I don't rush through a game and say, fuck it, that was trash, we're not looking into anything. I try to experience games, you know, from a lore standpoint, with the gameplay and everything. You know, whatever they've created, it's good to know more. Why do you think Warhammer's so popular? Warhammer's got fucking, like 1,000 books. More, probably, right? So many books. And it adds another layer of, like, care to that universe that people can latch onto. And that's what Arcane is doing. That's what all these other things are doing with League of Legends, right? Like, you only know characters
Jack
from playing the game.
As GP. Kevin Hart as Lucian Kappa Cinema.
Or Kevin Hart would be like TF. And they'd have, I don't even know. Someone else's Graves. I got no clue. Just take every known actor and put them into roles. We don't care who they are. They're roles. Okay? You're good. Kevin Hart is Ezreal. Kevin Hart is Tom Kench. You know, it's got Kevin Hart in it. You got to watch it. Hugh Jackman as Graves, yeah. Kevin Hart as Ezreal is cooking. Yeah, if you're cooking out of your toilet bowl.
Wee Man as Teemo.
Wee Man as Teemo. What even? Folks, you guys are weird.